Okay, welcome everyone to this next interview of the She Shakes the World interview series. I'm Rachel Waite, founder of She Shakes the World, and today I have the beautiful Caroline Pattinson here with me. Oh, you're going to love her. You're going to love her energy. You're going to love what she has to share. We may be going quite deep on this, and I know this story and Caroline's story and her journey is going to resonate with many of you today. If you're listening, I believe you're meant to be here listening to this. I'm going to briefly introduce Caroline and then just let her take the floor and let her speak. But she is a property investor. I've seen some of her posts on Facebook. If you're not following her posts, you must do. She creates these amazing, loving homes for her tenants. They're not just houses. I feel that they're proper homes. And I really see that in the work. And I can see your passion for creating these homes as well. You really take care of people's well-being and their mental health in the spaces that you create, and I think that's amazing. And you also are now mentoring people on their property journey. And I remember you saying, Caroline, that like you said, you had this amazing career. You had a 25-year marriage. Everything in your life was perfect on paper, but it didn't really. Life has quite changed and evolved for you over the past 5 or 6 years, and I'd love for you to just say hi and just share some of that journey with that journey of feeling like everything was perfect on paper, but inside life was really quite different to that. And I know you're able to share about that now.
I am. Thank you so much. So first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I
You're
feel
really welcome.
really honoured and really blessed to be invited to come on. And She Shakes the World is not anything that I would have attributed to myself at all as being worthy of that until really quite recently. But I love what you're doing so much about we do not serve ourselves or our children or anybody else if we hide our light and we play small and we slip into the roles that we're all brought up into to be certain things in work and as a mother, as a wife, as a family, as a friend. So I love what you're doing about stripping back the layers and
Yes.
discovering our true sense of purpose. And that's why as well I'm so excited to have the honor of being your guest because
Thanks, Caroline.
I've been certainly going through that
Yeah, you've
with
been
bells on.
stripping back the layers, haven't you? I know you have. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's that been like?
Emotional.
Mm.
Emotional, and the word empowering I think gets very overused, but it really has been. It's been very up and very down. I've probably frightened a few people around me by going from being ticking all the right boxes and talking about all the socially acceptable things into being very, very authentic. And sometimes that means that I'm quieter and I'll say things when things aren't okay. And other times it means I'm like a great big lighthouse that is shining with the crashing sea and I'm roaring my way through it. So, rather than just being in that sort of safe middle ground all of the time.
Yes. But that's like you say, that is empowering, isn't it? Because I think sometimes to shine our light is a scary thing to do, and sometimes being yourself, like you said, and truly allowing yourself to express who you are is scary. Not scary, but it is scary for you, but also it's difficult sometimes for other people to cope with the light that is coming at them because that light
Yeah.
is being shone upon them, and sometimes that's triggering for them. But that should never ever stop you from going, I've got this light and I'm going to shine it.
Yeah. And also your darkness can be triggering for other people as well, and I'll talk a
True.
little bit about that from a marital perspective or a financial perspective. If somebody's being a lot more transparent and open about things that we all have to deal with, whether that's parenting, finances and wealth, emotional, highs or lows,
Mm,
anxiety, divorce, setting up in business, borrowing money, all of these things, like polite society doesn't talk about those things
mm,
very much. And yet we are all impacted on, about them from them in one way or another, either in positive or negative ways. So I've been into all the corners, I've been into all the dark corners, and I've shone the torch in some of the bright corners. And yeah, I can, talk a little bit about that, because
Yeah.
my passion now, having been through an immense amount of self-discovery
Mm.
in the past, 6 years or so, is my greatest wish is now that I can help other people with that as well, because it would have helped me so much if
Yeah.
I'd have been able to just pick up the phone, or talk to somebody and go, look, this is where I'm at. My head is battered, or I've had this like amazing idea that I'm going to make a load of money from, and not feel awkward or embarrassed, and for someone just to go, yeah, great, let's have it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're having a shit day or if you're going to about to explode the world with something amazing. I totally understand. There is no judgment.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about it and see where it goes. Doesn't matter if it doesn't go anywhere, but if it does, it's going to be great.
Yeah. So you 5 or 6 years ago, you found yourself in a place where um you you had to make changes in your life. And how did you, because you didn't have the support necessarily, how did you navigate a massive change?
Yeah, as we mentioned before, and you're aware, so my background is that I professionally I worked for NatWest Bank for nearly 26 years. I started there when I was 16 at the very bottom, and I worked my way through the bank, and I ended up in a fairly senior role, where I was dealing with multi-million-pound budgets, and had a couple of hundred staff, and worked all around, through the corporation, and everything in the middle.
Yeah.
So professionally, that was my career. You might say I'm a bank manager at heart.
Yes.
uh, if I was to try and condense 25 years of working in big finance, you might say I'm a bank manager, senior bank manager at heart.
Mm.
And a property lender. I did a lot of property lending, which is now what has got me into property, actually,
Yeah.
at the time. So essentially, I was with the same company. I worked for NatWest for all of that time. So although I did a lot of different jobs, it was one company. And with that becomes stability and
Yeah.
security, and
Yeah.
it gives you identity. Everyone knows, oh yeah, Caroline works at the bank. I'm not sure what she's
Mm.
doing at the moment, but you can go talk to her if you want to talk about money. When in our society, when you meet people for the first time, very often after your name, the first thing that people say is, what do you do?
Mm.
So it was very secure for me to be able to say, oh, I'm a bank manager. Everyone's like, oh yeah, I get that, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of the women that I'm working with now, who either want to exit corporate or have recently exited corporate, usually after 20 plus years of a really good, successful
Yes.
career, one of the biggest stumbling blocks is, what is your identity?
Yeah.
It's and for men this can be even more so.
Mm.
Women do generally have a lot of identity outside of work as well. We have
Yes.
friends, hobbies, and things like that. But very often for men, this change can be even more impactful, because their identity is so much tied up with their work,
Yeah.
and without that can be quite traumatizing, or even lead to depression. And
Yeah.
there's that lost feeling. So lots of people that I work with on, who want to leave their proper job
Yes.
and get into property or whatever else there is, it's
Yeah.
that, what transferable skills have I got? Am I throwing it all away?
Yeah.
What do I call myself? What is my professional identity? So that's something that I help people to figure out, because I didn't have anybody
Yeah.
to help figure it out for me. And professionally, as I was with NatWest for 25, 26 years, my job was then, it was then permanently relocated to London.
Hmm.
And I have 3 children. And so much as I love trotting off down to London with a nice suit on and, everything, every
Yeah.
couple of weeks, I live in Cheshire.
Mm.
So my business is in Cheshire, my children and my family are in Cheshire. So it wasn't practical for me to relocate permanently. And so much as I had a lot of, I loved my job and it was giving me a lot of security, particularly because my marriage was really not in a good place. So having a salary and
Yeah.
having something that you're good at, it becomes increasingly important, because I knew that my marriage was, in a very shaky position.
Yeah.
Um, but I chose to leave the bank after 25, 26 years,
Incredible.
when I had the opportunity of voluntary redundancy. And it was, it was a really scary decision for me, because I also knew that my marriage was highly likely to fail within the next year or so, which in fact it did.
Yeah.
So I was also with the same man for 25 years. So I've essentially been with the same man and with the same company from the age of 19 to the age of 45.
Wow.
So I was very, I'd always lived in the same area, have a lot of friends and obviously your family. So I was quite, you could say I was institutionalized.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the outside, I'm ticking all of the boxes that we brought up from the time we can talk. So go to school, do well, get good job, get good exam grades, get a good job, get on in your career, earn enough money, have a nice car, get married, have some children, have a nice house,
Yeah.
tick, 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 tick. And I've since had a lot of people saying to me, but we used to look up to you because, or even envy you because you just have this perfect life on paper.
Yes.
But it becomes crap if
Oh,
you're not
yeah.
happy and no
Yeah.
longer serving you.
I
And that's what happened.
yeah. I see that happening in I think a lot of women's lives as well. And we reach this sort of, like you say, age 40s onwards, and suddenly it's like, oh, maybe there's more to me, there's more to life. But you can feel trapped because you've got the secure job, or you are married and you have children. Um, I didn't have never felt trapped, but I did in my early 40s go, okay, there's more I need to do now, there's more and I need to look at myself. So how did you navigate that feeling of feeling trapped, um and
Um,
realizing it was time to change? Because there's probably quite a few people listening who think, gosh, that's me.
there will be, and this is exactly why I'm talking about it, because
Yeah.
when people start to talk to you honestly, a few glasses of wine
Mm.
often helps, and start to say, oh, that's how I feel about my husband, or that's how
Yeah.
I feel about my marriage, or
Yeah.
that's how I feel about my job.
Yeah.
I'm working with 3 women at the moment who are corporately highly successful,
Yeah.
but the inside, they've kind of reached the point that we all work
Yeah.
for.
We've
You've got
not
the
done this work.
promotion, you've got the salary, you've got the company car, you've got this, or you've got that, or you whatever it is that you've been striving probably for years, working your ass off to achieve.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you get to the top of the mountain, and not only are you likely to be exhausted, even if you're still energized,
Yeah.
you might still be energized by what you're doing. I was I loved my job. I
Yeah.
was also exhausted, and
Yeah.
there's that the creeping feelings of dissatisfaction,
Mm.
which if left, or resentment, how hard you're working, the fact that you've got no time to yourself. The minute you walk in the door from work, you're trying to be a mum or a wife or a whatever other caring responsibilities you might have in your life,
Yeah.
and there's no switch off. And I remember at times the anxiety, just looking at my diary and thinking, going literally, I had a paper diary and flicking through pages and pages and just thinking, I need an hour, I need an hour, I need an hour. I need an hour to be by myself. And the overwhelm, I'm thinking, it's children, work, children, work, children, work. And I had a property business as well.
Yeah.
So I was working bloody hard, and I love to work hard. I'm a very high energy person, but I'm also somebody who gives everything my all. So
Yeah.
switching off is difficult for me. Relaxing is difficult for me.
Yeah.
But it led to massive overwhelm and anxiety,
Mm.
actually.
Yeah.
And the more people go, oh, aren't you doing well? Or the more you promote that image almost accidentally. For me, it was through practicing gratitude. So I would post a lot of things or talk about a lot of things. I bought a beautiful villa in Spain
Mm.
with the money that I was earning from the bank, with a pool and everything. And I used to go there and go and lie on the beach by myself in tears
Mm.
because I was so unhappy.
Yeah.
My marriage was in a really bad place. I didn't want my marriage to be in a bad place. Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Um, my ex-husband the marriage was becoming toxic.
Yeah.
And I was deeply concerned that my 3 children I became deeply concerned that they would grow up and replicate the same thing. And one of the turning points for me to leave my marriage was my little girl was 10,
Yeah.
and she was talking to her friend from school who was 10. And the friend was saying, oh, mummy and daddy are arguing all the time. And I'm really worried, that they're going to get divorced. And they're arguing all the time. And I just was crying in my bedroom last night. And my daughter, completely calm,
Yeah.
and without any hint of surprise, just said, well, that's just what marriage is. That's just what marriage is. You don't need to worry. They're not getting divorced. That's just normal. That's just what that's just what mums and dads do. They just argue all the time and they're not happy. And she didn't know I could hear. And
Wow.
it was Rachel, it was the biggest slap across the face of the wet fish for me.
Yeah. Because she
Um,
thought that was normal.
yeah,
Yeah.
she thought that was normal. And it was, that light bulb.
Yeah.
And I just thought, there were many, many other factors. But that was one of the things that I thought I have a responsibility. We are socialized and brought up to, you want to bring your children up in a stable relationship and a happy home. And historically, women didn't have a choice to leave. And many times now, women still think they don't have a choice to leave because of guilt or shame or family pressure or lack of ability to be financially independent or lack of confidence, or the list goes on.
Yeah.
And all of that ceased to be important for me against the fact that the realization that my daughter, and I have 3 children,
Yeah.
was highly likely to grow up and to marry somebody with whom she wasn't happy and the relationship wasn't working, and to stay in it like I did.
Yeah.
Because fundamentally, that belief from 0 to 7 that shapes us all
Yeah.
would be, that's what love is.
Wow.
And I just thought, this is no longer, I can cope with my own anxiety. Turns out I couldn't actually, on my own unhappiness, because I've got my friends, I'm so lucky. I've been practicing gratitude. That actually wasn't serving me. It was preventing me from dealing with the realities in the marriage. And but to the thought that my children would grow up with a fundamental, deeply held belief that they didn't even know that they had, that was normal, was,
Yeah.
I was like, no, I have to leave now.
And that was the catalyst for you then, wasn't it? That made you go, okay, that was I can feel it. That was your turning point that made you go, I need to look at myself. I need to change or make changes in my life.
Yes, because I was essentially, my husband and I were modeling to our children
Yeah.
that if you have a posh car on the drive and you have a nice house with a big garden and you have a good job and you are absolutely bloody miserable with each other, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And actually, it matters more than any of those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was
It does.
absolutely telling me I was dying inside.
Caroline, I'm so grateful that you've opened up and you've shared this, because I'm sure there are many who go through this and who think they don't have a choice, they don't have an option, they have to stay. And I think you sharing this will empower them and make them realize, actually, I do have a choice. There is something that I can do. I am worthy of more than this. I can, money and wealth and status, it doesn't have to outgo my happiness and my joy and my passion as well.
Yeah, and interestingly, Rachel, there was a time where, and this is probably years, not
Yeah.
months,
Yeah.
where I thought that they did. But what happens, you start dying inside.
Yes.
And, and you start going through the motions. You have the symptoms of depression where you can be in any situation,
Yeah.
and we will all be very good at putting on a smile and hello, yes,
Yeah.
everything's fine.
Yeah.
And what we do is we do not serve, not only do we not serve ourselves, but we're setting ourselves up for intergenerational trauma.
Yeah.
of, we all carry, men and women, but particularly women, because
Yeah.
historically we weren't allowed to get divorced, we weren't allowed to work. There was a blooming marriage bar, wasn't there, up until not very long, our parents' generation, whereby we couldn't have the choice. And so we actually carry intergenerational trauma of tolerance, and that could be tolerance to abuse, to subservience, to shining our light. Historically, women have been brought up to be seen and not heard, and to not be big, and to be quite a way of keeping ourselves safe in society from unwanted attention, from being, who does she think she is, from being too big to our boots, to being too sexy, to being anything, all of these things, to being a bitch, or all of this negativity has been, be quiet, be good, look pretty, smile, and be subservient. Excuse me, fuck that. No, I have no swearing's allowed on your
No,
podcast.
it is, but
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that realization, I would have been brought up like many, perhaps like you, perhaps like so many of us, that if we do all of those things, we're successful. We get a husband, we are good mums, we are this, we are that. But sometimes we just want to go,
yes.
not
So
serving.
interesting that you're sharing that, because I part of me like grew up kind of thinking that I needed to have a good job, I needed to follow this and follow some ladder, and I didn't do that. Part of me couldn't do it for whatever reason. I couldn't follow that ladder. But when I got to 40, I thought I was the most unsuccessful person around, because I didn't have that career. I didn't have that safe, secure job. And I would look around at everyone else going, God, look at them, they're all sorted. Because I hadn't, and so I felt like an absolute failure. So it's so interesting seeing the two sides of the story.
Yeah, and I was aware that in me, I felt like I was perpetuating the myth.
Okay, got
I
you.
felt like I was keeping other people trapped by remaining trapped.
Wow. But just by you saying that, by you now, I believe you're now giving other people permission to free themselves, because you're no longer trapped. If I understand that correctly.
I'm so not trapped.
No.
I am absolutely on it. I am like, but it's taken me, six and a half years worth of deep work. At the age of 45, I left my husband that I've been with. I wasn't married to him for 25 years, but I've been with him for 25 years. And I left my career, and both of those things defined me. And they gave me a level of familiarity. I won't say security, because security is a positive thing. Familiarity, and certainly gave me salary, and I had my property business as well, which I started when I was 23. So I had my property business as well, and I have had, and I still have responsibility for 3 children. So it was really difficult. I knew in leaving my career, the biggest wobble for me was when my marriage breaks down, because it's only a matter of time, much as I was trying to save it, I should have left it 20 years before I did. And I would hate anybody to make that the same mistake. And so thank God, no matter how hard it has been and how ugly and how difficult and how upsetting, I would say to anybody who's watching this, and this will cause a lot of controversy, the younger your children are, if you're unhappy and this marriage is toxic, leave when the children are young and they're older. Because
I've got chills you saying that, so I know this is resonating with some people.
Because we, like even my own mum, my mum is doing her best to look after me, because in their generation, being divorced or being on your own with your children or whatever it carried a lot of social shame, which still can absolutely happen. I had to have therapy with somebody that was saying, what is it that's stopping you leaving your marriage? I knew I needed to go. I ended up in hospital with a
Yeah.
stroke,
Yeah.
several years ago, with the stress of staying in a situation that I was ignoring and trying to fix, couldn't be fixed, trying to fix, couldn't be fixed.
Mm.
And I had therapy. She said, what is it? What's, and as an energy healer, this will resonate. And I was like,
Yeah.
I can't do it. She's like, what is stopping you from leaving? I was like, I can't. There's like a chain in my heart. There's something, and it isn't the disappointment. It's not, there's something greater. And you know what it was?
Go on.
Historic female familial voices.
Wow. Just take a moment to breathe that out, because I think that may be resonating with some other people right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll go back into generations, because generationally, in our DNA and in our history and in everything that we are brought up to believe that
Stay in the
keeps
marriage.
stay in your marriage
Yeah.
regardless, because you are, because the social consequences
Yeah.
of not doing so would be shame.
Yeah. And you're on your own, aren't you? You can't look after yourself. Like,
Yeah, well, I can bloody well
I
look
know
after
you can, but
myself.
like
Yeah,
that's like the voices.
but this is the contradiction which messes your head up as well,
Yeah.
because logically you're going, it is very unhealthy. I've just heard the evidence from my own little girl's mouth that she doesn't know I've heard,
Yeah.
saying I am carrying the responsibility for future generations of potentially marrying unhappily or not, by my choice to say. So staying in a relationship with children for the sake of the children, wait till they're 18, wait till they're older. I've got friends who are like, oh, I'm just going to wait till they're 18. The damage is done.
Yeah.
And by then you might be too old to leave, or too scared, or too
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and it took me to have a total breakdown and some therapy that said it is ancestral, female fear that is preventing me from leaving, because I know I can go and get another job. I know I have my business. I know I am a highly capable woman. I know I have my friends. I know I have myself. But that was something, and then so I did leave, and then I've done an awful lot of work since then.
Yeah.
Figure out. So, I'm reading this book I mentioned to you before called The Emotional Inheritance, and how that shapes us. I've learned about attachment theory. I've learned about narcissistic abuse. I've learned about why I relate to people the way I do or don't. The biggest thing that I've tried to be is authentic, because in ticking all the boxes, oh yeah, she's doing great in her career, oh yeah, she's got a nice car, oh yeah, she's got 3 beautiful children, oh yeah, she's married to a tall, charming man on the outside, all of these things is trapping other people, because they feel like, well, she's doing that and she's happy, so I must have to stay. And it was some of my friends and my hairdresser going, oh, I've left my husband. I was like, wow. And I was like, talk to me. I was like a sponge. I was like, they were like, well, it was like this. I felt like this. This situation, that situation. I was thinking, that's me. That's me. And they gave me permission in my heart, in my head. It started to give me permission, because other women were brave enough to tell me how they had been feeling. And I have since given other women permission.
Yeah. I was going to ask, so just to sort of conclude this, really, what would you say to someone who listening right now is going, I do feel stuck, and I know there's something else, there's something more for me, that I do feel trapped in my life. What one little thing could you say to them to say, look, it's okay to change, it's okay to step into something else? What one thing could you say to them to just give them that bit of encouragement to go, right, I'm going to make some changes?
Just, you can do it. It sounds so simple, and when you are terrified, it's difficult. But for me, it was, the bottom line was, and I use this in business as well, is if you're really so unhappy and you're dying inside and you can feel your light going out month by month, year by year, and you know in your heart that you just, you're not being bad for being dissatisfied or selfish or any of those
Oh,
things.
absolutely.
But if you know in your heart that you're just dying inside and you're tolerating stuff that you should not be tolerating, and man, did I tolerate stuff I shouldn't have been tolerating, that's a whole other chapter, then or you're covering it up by whatever means of escapism it might be. Mine was work, other
Work.
people alcohol, other
Yeah.
people's might be having an affair, other people's
Yeah.
might be any number of things. Mine was work.
Yeah.
Work. Then you're not serving yourself. And my biggest fear, as I said, was my children actually making the same mistakes that I was making.
Mm.
And now they're not. And since then, also, I have created a very, very successful business despite I lost all my savings when I got divorced.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of my properties, and I set myself 3 years ago, no, August 2019 it was.
Yeah.
I set myself an ambition that I wanted to earn, and I'm really following on from your terrific interview with Liz Bateson about wealth and abundance last year.
Yeah.
I've been doing everything, even despite the pandemic. I've been traveling by myself. I've got so many friends,
Yes.
and it's just amazing to meet people like yourself through our groups that we're in, and properties, and I'm speaking at events. I've been asked to do all sorts of things, and I bloody love it. I absolutely am on fire, but I had to be broken before to give Faye Edwards a credit, to be ignited from the ashes. And we can do it because we do have the strength. We do, even if we are broken, we have the strength. To August 2019, I decided that I wanted to earn a lot of money.
Yeah.
I want to do it in a way that really, really helps other people.
Yeah.
And so I've created a business. I already had the business, but I've totally changed it. Yeah. And I set myself a target that I wanted to earn 10 times what I was earning. It seemed ludicrous to me. I lost my savings. I've just been through a very painful divorce. I haven't got my job anymore. And I gave myself a 5-year plan to earn this in what to me at the time felt like I wouldn't tell anybody, because I felt they'd be like, who the hell do you think you are to do that? I'm now earning, I've hit my target in February this year, 2.5 years into a 5-year plan about what I wanted to do in financial abundance. And I'm really, really helping people because I run co-living houses with positive mental health. And I'm passionate. I've found a passion in what I do. And now I'm helping other people move into what they want to do as well, and I just love it. So I'm on fire.
I can see your light shining. I can feel your energy, and I'm just so proud of you that you did that you got through it, and now look at where you are and where your life is. And I think women listening, whoever's listening, just to take encouragement from Caroline, her story, her journey, from what she went through, from the courage to get out of an unhappy situation, and to know that there is light at the other side, and you can have everything and more when you're true to yourself, for sure.
Yeah, and it does come. You don't think it will, and you read things on the internet, see all the little motivational memos, and I used to carry around one with me all the time. It said, do not be led by your problems, do not be pushed by your problems, be led by your dreams. And I used to carry that around with me when I was feeling really wobbly. And I've got my board here, which has a lot of things on it which bring me joy and motivate me. And all of a sudden everything just seems that abundance I used to read, and I'd be like, oh well, that's all very nice, but that's not for me, and she's different to me, she's better than me, or she's this. No, absolutely, we do have it, we really do. And if I can do it, if I can do that starting again at 45, then anybody can.
They can. Wow, Caroline, your words have been so powerful. I've taken loads just from listening to you. It's been fantastic. And I know there's going to be some great feedback from this. Caroline, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for opening up and sharing all that you shared. I know this is going to profoundly help lots of women or men who've been listening to this.
Yeah, I hope so. I think the more we can just be authentic and help each other, and then the world really does become a better place, gets rid of those ties and things that we grow up with. So, yeah,
We will shake the world together.
we'll shake it together, Rachel.
Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.